Hi, everybody. I want to start this video by inviting you to just think about something for a few moments. Homework. So, what just happened in your mind? Maybe even in your body? What thoughts floated through your brain? Memories? Feelings? Did you feel a reaction in your body? Maybe in your chest or your stomach? Just the concept of homework carries so many associations that it's almost heavy. A lot of those are negative. Recently, I had an idea about homework, one that I'm really excited about, and I wanted to share it with you. But first, I want us to kind of think through the issue so that when I share my idea, you'll hopefully see where it's coming from and maybe kind of where it's going. So basically, in I think most cases, the general thought, sensation that comes to mind can be summed up by one word. Blech. Homework has a reputation for being tedious, repetitive, boring, that it doesn't actually help. And there are many reasons for this. In addition to the amount and type of homework, which are typically the primary complaints, it's important to consider that students have different amounts of support from caregivers. They may have an older sibling who can help them at home. They may have parents who know a lot about the subject, or they might not. They might have a lot of other activities, or they might have lots of time to do it. And all of that is going to change what the experience is like for that student. There's also the idea that teachers ought to be able to accomplish their learning goals during class time. They got a whole day. And then after a full day of work at school, students have more work. That seems really unfair. But it's important to remember that homework, when assigned, theoretically has a purpose. You wouldn't imagine that someone could become a master instrumentalist playing the violin or the trumpet without a whole lot of practice. We know that practice helps. Sports teams, they don't just show up for the game. They practice. One of the concepts that I have come back to repeatedly is the idea of the forgetting curve. And there's a link in the description that talks about this. So after we learn something, it starts to sort of slip away. And research has shown that the most amount of forgetting starts to happen within 20 minutes to about an hour after we learn something. This is why it can be super helpful to reflect at the end of a class what we've learned during that class. This is usually referred to as having exit slips or an exit ticket. And so that can be a great way to be like, hey, don't forget this. And overall, even though that's when most of the biggest drop off in what we remember occurs, most of what we'll forget, we actually forget within the first 24 hours. After that, it levels off and we forget, the bit that we have left, we tend to remember. So that's why spaced retrieval allows for a reminder within that 24 hours. So spaced retrieval is the phrase that we use to refer to reviewing periodically so that we remind ourselves and we don't forget as much. So having that spaced retrieval that evening can really help say, okay, you learned this. Hey, let's solidify what you've learned. In education, we also have something that's referred to as the 10-minute rule. This is the idea that younger students, especially children, they need a break. They need time to run around and burn off all that energy that little kids have. The 10-minute rule is that students benefit from no more than, this is a maximum, not a guideline, a maximum of 10 minutes per grade level per night across all of their subjects. This can be challenging because, especially at the high school level, different students are going to have different teachers. So coordinating that becomes really, can be really challenging. It's important for teachers to keep this in mind that when you're assigning something, there may be other teachers that are also assigning something within that same time frame. In practice, though, it seems like it works the other way around. That elementary school students have hours of homework that their parents have to drag them through, whereas as students get older, in most cases, they're assigned less homework less often. So there's more when they benefit less and less when they would benefit more. Another concern is the issue of mastery. That shows up in two ways when we're talking about homework. First of all, if students have mastered a concept or a skill, They don't need as much practice to reinforce it as those who are still building up their mastery. Additionally, doing poorly on work that's supposed to help you build your skills, that should be expected. It's not really fair to punish that. The grade that really ought to matter is how well the student understands the skill by the end of the time given to master it. So, what I started thinking about was how to achieve the possibility of using homework as an opportunity to practice and improve without penalizing weak performance or non-completion. The thing is, if I assign work that's completely on their own, students who are struggling don't have any guidance on how they can improve. Sometimes they don't even realize they're doing poorly. Their misunderstanding is so severe, they think they're doing just fine. So they definitely need feedback that both is evaluative, here's where you're at, and descriptive, here's how I know, and this is what you can do to get better. So here's my plan. I'm going to assign work twice a week. Once, 15 minutes of automated grammar practice through an online platform like Quill or No Red Ink. The other would be a 100-word-ish written reflection that's thematically connected to the literature we're studying. One will be assigned Monday and due Wednesday, and the other will be assigned Wednesday and due Friday. This way, students who have jobs or are involved in extracurricular activities have some flexibility with when they complete the assignment, but there's still some consistency, so they know what to expect. These assignments will be graded, and the writing practice will also get comments using my super basic 3-point reflection. What worked? What didn't? What next? These grades will be entered into the online grading system that students and caregivers can access. But here's the vital part. I'll give these assignments a special code when I enter them. That means those grades don't affect the student's course average. This is going to mean more work for me. However, next semester I have a really interesting course load. I teach only one English class. All my other courses are online facilitation, which means no instruction and minimal descriptive feedback, and that's really what makes grading take so long in English class. Additionally, I have what I think is a really generous late policy. I've linked that down in the description in case you're curious, but I'm not going to apply it to these assignments. Either you turn it in on time or you just don't do it. These assignments will be connected to the work we're currently doing in class. So when we move on, I want students to be focused on the skills we're learning at that point, not going back and catching up. No judgment either way, and it doesn't affect your course grades. So focus on what we're doing now. This will also hopefully lighten the workload for me a little bit, as I won't have to worry about keeping track of those assignments being turned in late in addition to any others. And I'm going into this not with the idea that this is a great new strategy and it's going to help my students achieve to their greatest potential, blah, blah, blah. But I'm curious. I want to see what's going to happen. I'm really looking forward to exploring this and finding out. So here are my questions as I'm moving forward with this. Will students complete the assignments? What proportion of them? Will that change over the course of the term? And if so, how? How much additional work is this going to create for me? Would it be sustainable if I had a full course load of English classes? And if not, how might I modify it to make it work? How will caregivers respond to the idea? How will students react to seeing zeros or low grades in the gradebook, even if their average doesn't change? How will they react to critical feedback on their work if they know it will not affect their course average? Will they still get upset? Will they blow it off? Or will it reduce the sting and make it easier for them to use that feedback more effectively? Obviously, that's the one I'm hoping for. What about caregivers? Will they have complaints they take to administration? I've already run this idea by my department head and my principal, so my butt's covered, but it's still frustrating to have that happen. Or again, will they be more receptive to the idea of looking to improve and to learning more? If some students complete the assignments and others don't, what patterns will I notice in those groups? And most importantly, will I see that students who complete the additional practice in these homework assignments, will they improve their skills more than those who don't? I would be delighted to know what you think of the idea, and also what ideas and associations and memories come to mind when you think about homework. Leave me a comment. And don't forget to check the description. I've linked to a number of different articles that explore this topic as well. There are a lot of different variables at play as I go forward with this experiment, and it's not any kind of controlled study, but still, I'm really excited about seeing what happens and what I can learn from this. I'll keep you posted.